Hi, everyone who are joining us. We'll get started in just a moment. Hope everybody's doing well today. Give people a chance to log on.
I think I'm sharing evidence.
Oh.
Hi, Anna Marie.
Everybody, hi to everybody. This is like old home week. A lot of us, you guys all know, a lot of you are going to know most of the people on the call, I hope, which is great. I'm Heidi Pickman. I'm the VP of Programs and Policy at Cameo. We're basically hosting the Zoom with me. My compadre in crime here at Cameo is Melissa Cruz. She is, for you who haven't met Melissa, she just waved. She is our Southern California program manager, officially on the job 6 weeks, but she's been with us since the beginning of the year. So want to just say hi to everybody. We don't have a ton of people on, so let us do a quick introductions. Before we do, let's make sure we're gonna make sure all your audio is muted, just so you know. So I am gonna mute everyone, and then we will allow you to unmute yourself. And to do that, you bring, for those of you who haven't been on Zoom, I know that's probably no one on this call, the mic icon is the bottom left of your screen if you take your cursor and drag it down to the bottom of your Zoom screen. And we're also going to be using the chat box. So just so you know, we're happy to send out the slides. This is kind of a nice intimate group with the steering committee and a lot of the community partners. We have information to share, but also want to hear from you. Next slide, we're going to do some introductions. Just give us your name, your organization, and really briefly, if you are a credit organization, like a lender or do business services, or if you have a specialty or something like that. And I am going to just call you out really quickly by looks like alphabetical order. So first up, and you can go ahead and unmute yourself, Anna Marie, and then Bianca. So Anna Marie.
Hi everyone. Good morning. Thank you for being here. I know we would prefer to meet everyone in person, but this is a great showing. I'm the Western Regional Manager for ICIC, which is the Initiative for Competitive Intercity.
Thanks. Next on my list, which is not alphabetical, is Quentin. I'm not sure how Quentin came up, but Quentin?
Hey, how's it going? This is Quentin Strode. Hey, Anna Marie, how are you? With New Economics for Women's Business Center, a new organization that just started about 6 weeks ago.
Awesome. Thanks, Quentin, for joining us. Bianca.
Hi, everybody. My name's Bianca. I manage policy and outreach operations for a nonprofit called Small Business Majority. We don't provide any lending or technical assistance, but we connect small business owners with free and low-cost resources in their community, and work in Sacramento and Washington, D.C. to elevate those voices.
Awesome. Hello, Mr. Fong. How are you today?
Oh. Hi, Heidi. I'm well, thank you. I'm the Executive Director of the Asian Pacific Islander Small Business Program, a small business technical assistance provider, an SBA Women's Business Center, a collaborative of 6 organizations.
Thanks, Ron. And Constance, welcome. Great to see you here. Constance was a Cameo board member. And Constance, you are muted, so I'm going to unmute you. Moving on to Emma, who's on the
Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Hey everyone, I am on the Entrepreneurship Advantage Steering Committee. My name is Emma Kloppenberg. I'm a program officer at Local Initiative Support Corporation, or LISC. LISC is a national nonprofit CDFI that provides financing to small businesses and nonprofits, as well as technical assistance and support programs.
Thanks. Fidel.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, my name is Fidel Gomez, and I'm actually the director for corporate foundation relations at the University of Laverne. My previous background, I worked with the SBDC Center that we also host at the University of Laverne, so I'm pretty familiar, and I see some familiar faces. And
good morning, everyone. Constance Anderson.
Hi, Constance. How are you?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Can you?
We can hear you. We cannot hear you now, Constance. But it does show that you are unmuted. I'm going to move on to 619 phone number.
Oh, that's probably me, Susan Lamping. Is that me?
That is you, Susan.
Okay, I actually have to call in to get audio and then Zoom for video. So technology, you know, is our friend. Yep. Hey everybody, Susan Lamping with CDC Small Business Finance. I'm super happy to see so many people. Anna Marie, hello, my people. Really great to be here. So I'm the Vice President of Sales with CDC Small Business Finance. We are a lender, we are actively lending, and I'm proud to say that we have approved over 2,600 PPP loans, thanks to the support of Noe and Monica, who are also on the call. It worked overtime and many weekend hours. So great job by everybody, and really happy to see so many familiar faces.
Thanks, Susan. Yeah, good job. And Frank, who's also on the EA Steering Committee with Emma.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Frank Stokes. I'm the director of the Best Mobile Accelerator, Bethel LACDC. We're training and technical assistance providers.
Hassan?
Hi, everyone. Hassan Del Campo with Rise Financial Pathways. We are a CDFI based out of South Los Angeles. We do a little bit of micro lending, technical assistance, and we are working on launching a incubator.
Constance, I see you're able to unmute again. You want to give it a shot? Melissa, can you private message Constance and see if you can help her with her tech issues? Larry, I'm going to save you for last because you're going to speak. So, and move on to Lindsay, who is Lindsay Chung, who is our EA Steering Committee Chair, co-chair.
Good morning, everybody. This is Lindsay Chung. I'm the Community Development Officer at Opportunity Fund. We're a nonprofit microlender. Thank you all for joining us today.
And her partner in crime is Monica, who's up next.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. So excited to see you guys here, even if it's virtually. Monica Guevara. I work for CDC Small Business Finance, along with Susan and my partner in crime, coworker, Noe. So also co-chair for Entrepreneurship Advantage.
Great. Let's try you, Constance. Yes, we can hear you. You want to, where are you from? Where are you working? And so you are unmuted, but we do not hear you. We heard you when you said, can you hear me?
Followed by pound.
And now we hear your background. Knowing.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Noe Castillo. I'm a loan officer with CDC Small Business Finance, part of the CDC gang. As you can tell, there's many of us in here for some reason, it seems like, but Good to see a lot of familiar faces, Larry, Emma, Nancy, and everyone. Good to see you all, and thank you for taking the time to put this together.
Selena.
Hi, everyone. This is Selena from Pacific Coast Regional. I am their Chief Compliance Officer. PCR is both a CDFI lender from microloans, community advantage loans. We also have a small business development center.
Thanks, Selena. And Sharon, who I haven't seen in a long time. Hello.
Hi, this is Loree on behalf of Sharon Evans. Today, I'm the project coordinator on behalf of Business Resource Group with Sharon, and we do financial services, loan services, business credit building, and trainings.
Excellent. Good to see you. Good to see Business Resource Group. We have two more. We have Xiomara's on the line.
Everyone, Xiomara Pena with Small Business Majority. Nice to see all of you. And I'm also joined with our Northern California Outreach Manager. I'll let her introduce herself.
She already did. And we have one last number, which may be Constance on the phone. Is it 323-893-9194?
Me okay now?
Yep.
You can hear me. Good morning, everyone. Sorry for the confusion. Constance Anderson. I am the president of the Center by Lendistry. Lendistry is the second largest lender of SBA lending, and I am the technical assistance arm of Lendistry. And if I'm correct, the last time we looked, we had done almost $79 million in PPP funding loans.
Thanks for our lenders
Happy
on
to be
here.
here.
Yeah, happy to be here. And Constance used to serve on the Cameo board. Next slide, please. Melissa, just a quick rundown of what we're going to talk about today. We have some slides, but we kind of discussed real quickly that we want to, there's a lot of information on here that you might be familiar with, or so we might not go so deep into the slides, but want to hear what you're hearing from your small businesses. So we're going to talk about some employment issues, the PPP program, and then Anna Maria is going to lead us in a discussion. Next slide, please. I'm going to call on Lindsay to just do a quick introduction of EA and what its purpose is. And I know I'm kind of doing this out of the blue. Lindsay or Monica, you want to chime in here? And
So entrepreneurship was created a couple of years ago, and our focus is to gather small business professionals together so we can share best practices, collaborate on a number of different projects, and streamline the referral systems between us. We found Cameo as a fiscal sponsor about last year, and we recently brought on Melissa to join our team.
So yeah, Melissa's helping out down in Southern California with EA and also helping me out with some programming at Cameo. So, and I think another really great reason why EA was created is because everybody understands, and why you're here is because we're stronger together. It's really important, if we can talk as one voice and know what everybody's doing, and also when we can magnify each other's work. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bianca to get our agenda kicked off. So Bianca, she introduced herself, but she's a California Policy Engagement Manager at Small Business Majority, and I might not have your exact title right. Sorry about that, Bianca, but take it away.
No worries. And this is a slightly new group for me, so I appreciate you all for having me here. I'm sure all of you are very familiar with our director, Xiomara Pena. She's actually located in Southern California. She likely works with many of you on these issues. But today, Heidi invited me to chat a little bit about some of the educational programming that we've been putting out recently in regards to the employment-related issues that a lot of small business owners are facing. Next slide, please. So we advocate for small business owners specifically. We're a national nonprofit. We have a few offices around the country. A few of us are located here in California. We focus on the macroeconomic issues that small business owners face, typically access to capital, predatory lending, navigating a complex healthcare system, wealth building, etc. And in the wake of COVID-19, obviously a lot of the employment-related issues that small business employees face are also impacting small business owners, particularly self-employed business owners, sole proprietors, gig economy workers, etc. So the following content is going to be slightly different from the work we typically do in Small Business Majority, but we have found that this information is really helpful for small business owners and then for you all to advise your clients on how to manage issues that are coming up with their workforce. So I need to be quick though. I told Melissa I would time myself, so 11:30 is my cutoff mark. Next slide, please. Our advocacy work, our educational programming is all determined by the third-party independent polling and research that our small business or that our organization engages in nationwide. We have a network of tens of thousands of small business owners, but we're not membership based. All the small business owners that we work with, we have engaged with in intimate sessions just like this, oftentimes in person. The education is exactly what you're seeing here today. And then we also elevate these issues in Sacramento and in Washington, D.C. Next slide, please. The EDD Workshare program, if you have clients that are asking about this program, feel free to reach out to us, Xiomara Pena. Typically what the individual would do if they're interested in the Workshare program is contact the EDD. Next slide, please. Yeah, that's great. The EDD Workshare program is slightly different than the other programs I'm going to be talking about today in that it's a program that the employer themselves engages with the EDD with. They would be in charge of filing all the paperwork, submitting that paperwork, and managing the plan. Essentially, the Workshare program is not to oversimplify it, but it is for business owners that are kind of in that gray area. They're not necessarily shut down all the way. Next slide, please. But they're also not operating at full capacity. So in order to be eligible, you need to have at least 2 employees participating. That would eliminate a lot of the self-employed folks that you may be working with. Next slide, please. It's important that you maintain the same level of benefits. This is just an infographic that gives you an idea of that gray area that I was describing. Next slide, please. This gives you an idea of the information that we do have available. We got this information directly from the EDD. We understand that it's all hands on deck with EDD right now. So if you are having a hard time contacting the EDD, I'm more than happy to distribute the information that we do have. Maybe Melissa, if we could just skip the next 3 slides and move right into the unemployment insurance section. Great. Yeah, this is perfect.
And just so everybody knows, we'll share the slides so you get all these links and things like that.
Okay, yeah, so you guys will all have these afterwards. So pandemic unemployment assistance, a lot of folks have questions about these programs. Essentially, there were a few different programs that were passed in the CARES Act. Pandemic unemployment compensation, or PUC, is that $600 a week temporary money that you are receiving from the federal government or your clients' employees might receive from the federal government. That's called PUC. We have PUA, which is Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. That was opened up in California as of April 28th. And essentially what PUA did is it allowed states, again, it's a federal program, it allows states current departments, so for us, the EDD, to expand the unemployment insurance eligibility, or the folks that are able to enroll in unemployment, expands it temporarily in response to COVID-19. Next slide, please. It applies to folks that are typically ineligible for unemployment, largely because if you're self-employed, as a lot of your clients are probably aware, they have not paid into this program. It's typically more cost-effective for individuals to take what are called draws, as opposed to paying themselves regular wages. So PUA was passed as part of the CARES Act to cover roughly in California 30% of individuals that classify themselves as self-employed. So who can apply? Part-time workers, furloughed employees, anyone who can no longer go to work, as I mentioned, the self-employed, gig workers, also independent contractors. They're able to apply to pandemic unemployment assistance. Next slide, please. This is what it will look like in California. In the beginning phase, so through March 28th, it would be about at least $167 per week. Heidi, I know that you had some questions. I think that we had gotten to the bottom of the at least before, but we're happy to chat more about it. Xiomara Pena actually is the one who put this slide together, so she's our go-to person in talking about that policy. But essentially, there are three phases. The beginning phase, it looks like $167 per week. The phase 2 would be the $167 per week plus the $600 a week from the federal government. And then, as I mentioned, that extension is only temporary, or that expansion is only temporary. And so as of phase 3, it would go back to the at least $167 payment that you would be qualified for through the end of July, essentially to the end of the year. Next slide, please. If you're not sure if you should apply for regular unemployment or pandemic unemployment assistance in the state of California, go ahead and apply for the unemployment insurance, and EDD will essentially make that determination for you. From my understanding, and there are folks that are doing more step-by-step breakdowns of what PUA looks like, what the unemployment website looks like. That includes JEDI, the Jefferson Economic Development Institute. Claudia Veek from the Invest in Women Initiative is walking through self-employed individuals through that process. And they have some great slides if you're interested in a more granular look. But essentially, you'll go onto the EDD website, edd.ca.gov. You'll file for unemployment, and the EDD will essentially determine if you are classified, if you would qualify for pandemic unemployment assistance or unemployment insurance through the traditional avenues. Next slide, please. A lot of folks have questions about making some income on PUA. As we mentioned, this is specifically for sole proprietors, self-employed individuals, independent contractors who may be drawing in some income, but not nearly as much as they would if COVID-19 wasn't happening, shelter-in-place orders weren't happening. So in the week that you receive the income, you'll enter in the information when you go online to recertify. Simply be over-communicative with the EDD. Advise your clients that any income they do make should be reported to the EDD, lest they have to pay that money back at a later date. But it is possible to still receive PUA and make some income. Next slide, please. This is an example that Trish and Claudia put together that I thought was really helpful. So on May 5th, if a client receives income for a weeks-long project in the amount of $500, that client would certify for the week of May 3rd through May 9th. They would report that $500 income because it falls within that period. If the project then ends and they don't have any income for the following week of May 10th through 17th, then the client would report 0. So unemployment insurance benefits would be reduced, might be reduced for that week, but it doesn't limit one's ability to collect future weekly benefits. Next slide, please.
I have a question, Bianca, that's related, if you don't mind me going through, if you go back to that last slide. Does that, if you earn $500, but let's say, so you get the 450 plus the 600, would you just get reduced? So that's a total of 1050. Would you just get reduced 500, or would you lose the benefits altogether?
I have no idea.
You have no
Right.
idea. Okay.
Maybe
Does anybody?
But I don't know like the ratio, how it is, you know,
Yeah.
it is with the stimulus payments. Remember that formula, for example? I don't
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, that's a good question. We'll put that to EDD and get back to everybody. And there is a question of how a self-employed contractor accesses the $600.
The PUC payment.
Yeah.
Have already been receiving that money that comes through the feds. Reach out to us though. I don't know the recourse, because again, we advocate for small business owners. For an employee that isn't receiving that $600 a week, that $600 a week money, I'm not sure what the recourse would be there.
But it's automatic when they apply through EDD, when they apply. So they should be getting it. So that they should be accessing, like it should happen automatically, right?
It should happen automatically, but if they're not receiving it for whatever reason, I think the first thing you should do is call EDD. I know folks are having a hard time getting through, but they have put a lot of manpower into expanding the call hours. I think it's like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Most days of the week, and they are available to help folks walk through the process. I would start there. They are responsive, but if you're not getting that $600 a week payment from the federal government through EDD, you should have already been receiving that if you're eligible. So I would call EDD. Next slide. Okay, so we chatted about this one. Next slide, please. Okay, a couple other programs that we've gotten some clarification on as we move forward in this process. I realize I have 2 minutes. The disaster relief assistance for immigrants, we're still waiting to hear a lot more information about this. Ziamara might have some information at the end of the webinar about the specific nonprofits that will be delivering these services to immigrant communities in California, but eligible Californians may receive a one-time COVID-19 relief assistance check or a debit card. Not sure how that's going to be delivered, but the value could be $500 with a limit of 2 adults per household. Next slide, please. This program is intended to cover a lot of folks that may have fallen through the cracks with some of the extra and temporary expanded uninsurance assistance available to folks. So it's going to be handled through a different department, not the EDD like regular unemployment insurance or PUA, PUC is handled. It will be handled through the California Department of Social Services. Their goal is to deliver this access to immigrant communities by the middle of May. So pretty soon here. Next slide, please. Some other things that have, kind of gotten some clarity that I wanted to let folks know about is eligibility for healthcare, how these different federal programs, unemployment insurance, expanded unemployment insurance will impact your eligibility for specific healthcare programs in California. So California has this only state subsidy program to help middle-class Californians pay for health insurance. And so if you are receiving pandemic unemployment compensation, just know that all unemployment benefits, including pandemic unemployment compensation, are included in a recipient's income for purposes of eligibility for financial help through Cover California. So the state subsidy program is available to small business owners, self-employed individuals in California that make between 400 and 600% federal poverty level. In normal people terms, that's about $72,000 between $55,000 and $72,000 a year. So if you fall within that category, just keep in mind that some of these unemployment benefits may be considered when talking about the purposes of eligibility. Next slide, please. Tried to make this as clear as possible, but the pandemic unemployment compensation, that $600 a week payment through the federal government, is not considered countable income for financial help and premium assistance for Medi-Cal and CHIP, but traditional benefits are considered for Medi-Cal and CHIP. So we put together this kind of little chart that I think is helpful. If you'd like this, just let me know. So remember, traditional unemployment benefits impacts both. The PUC $600 a week payment impacts covered California state subsidy, but not Medi-Cal. And the stimulus checks that essentially went out to everyone, most folks, that does not impact either Medi-Cal eligibility or covered California state subsidy program. Next slide, please. So just keep in mind that PUA specifically is a brand new program. Each state is going to need to develop all the necessary system programming. If you represent clients outside of California, just make sure to check with their version of EDD and see, how it's going with them setting up their own system. Here in California, PUA essentially rivals the size of traditional unemployment insurance, which means it's huge, it's complex. The administration has put a lot of resources into making it as streamlined and efficient as possible, but there's just going to be hiccups essentially. Next slide, please. Okay, these are the resources that we have available. I know I'm coming up on time, but if you would like more information on onwardca.org, Governor Newsom joined Bitwise to help workers in supercritical industries in California that have been impacted. Next slide, please. We have an online resource portal, as everyone I'm sure does at this point. Next slide, please. And Venturize. I know that Xiomara obviously does a lot of work in Southern California and maintaining partnerships there. If you have any questions for how to join our resource portal, venturize.org, it gives your clients access to all of the great resources that you provide for free, while also making sure that they are responsible actors. Mission-driven lenders are all featured on venturize.org. Next slide, please. Next slide. And I think we can go to the end with my contact information. Melissa, if you just want to go to the end, I'm 3 minutes over, so I apologize. That's my contact info. Feel free to send me a text if you have questions. If clients have really in the weeds FAQs that you think other folks would be asking, point them towards our online community forum. It's a thread where small business owners can kind of crowdsource some of their experiences and information together to get their questions answered.
Thanks, Bianca. We have one question that came to me privately, and it's about the business owner being eligible for PUA when it has employees, not for the employees, but for the business owner, for him or herself.
Is the business owner with employees eligible for PUA?
Yes.
I mean, I don't think so, only because, that individual, so PUA is specifically for folks that are typically ineligible for unemployment.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would depend on how their business is structured, how they pay themselves particularly, but I mean, it could be possible depending on the way their business is structured, but usually not. And it's also important to keep in mind that if this person is taking out any federal loans, the Paycheck Protection Program, or taking advantage of any federal tax credits, that money cannot be used for the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It is not, folks that apply for a PPP are not automatically ineligible for PUA, but it does put certain restrictions on what that money can be used for.
Sure. Thanks, Bianca. Let's move on to, does anybody have any questions for Bianca? Again, I know she gave a lot of information, so there's a lot of resources out there that she can point you to when we'll share the slides. But seeing none in chat, seeing nobody raising their hands or anything, I want to thank you very much. That's all really good information. I just have a quick question. You can type the answer in chat while Larry gets going. Are you all seeing are people coming to you with these questions? Are you seeing small businesses come to you looking for help with workshare or looking for help with unemployment issues, the indies and stuff like that? You can type your answer into chat. But I'd like to turn it over now to Larry Johnson, who is going to walk us through a little bit of PPP stuff. And Larry, take it away.
Sure. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all. This whole issue of relief programs relative to COVID-19 from the federal government is on everyone's mind. I'm sure you all are familiar. Next slide, please. That would be fine. And as you know, that there are two basic programs. I'm not going to go through these in detail, and please feel free to interrupt me if you've got specific questions. But one of the big issues that we are finding at the SBDC is that people really don't understand the distinction between the two programs. That EIDL is truly a working capital based program that's designed to help people address their working capital needs and operating expense needs. And it only has a small forgivable portion, which is that $10,000, up to $10,000 cash advance. Many people incorrectly believe that the up to $10,000 cash advance is a grant, and that is all EIDL is about, that $10,000 or up to $10,000 cash advance. So that's the one thing we have quite a bit of problem in explaining to folks and get them to understand. Secondly, the Paycheck Protection Program is clearly a program that is designed for one basic purpose, and that is to get money in the hands of business owners so that they can either pay their existing employees, keep them on the payroll at least for 2 months, or rehire employees that have been furloughed. And then there's a small component that's going to be available for folks to pay some other very narrow operating expenses like rent. But basically, those are the two components. Now, the difficulty with paycheck protection is that people gravitate towards it for really one basic reason, and that is that they have caught on to the fact that it is potentially forgivable up to 100%. But they don't really spend much time thinking about the conditions until after they're awarded the funds. And I see so many of the clients that we speak to have been awarded paycheck protection, and they finally are beginning to see the small print that they have to meet certain requirements to be forgiven. And suddenly they realize that, gee, my local municipality won't allow me to open my restaurant within the next 2 months. So how can I effectively use this money? And so they're in that quandary as to what they need to do or what they could do, or does this make any sense for them? And that's really where we have to begin to sit and talk and chat with them about the strategy towards operating their businesses. They've got to contend with the reality of operating in this environment, that they may never be fully back to what it used to be. So they've got to look at their business in terms of how can we generate on an income, how can we generate revenues and ultimate income on a gradually opening basis. Perhaps there are other services, other products we may have to offer and offer them in a different way. So having that conversation with them will lead to the potential reality of our being able to utilize these funds in the next 2 months for specific purposes that could be useful and beneficial long term. Also, we discussed with them the possibility that they may want to pay and arrange to pay certain folks in advance of actually doing the work that they will be doing. So, the key forgivability profile that they must meet is repayment, use of the proceeds up to at least 75% for payroll and payroll related expenses. And those are very well defined in the documentation that they receive. And what's interesting is that people are not terribly secure about that definition, about what defines payroll. And so we've spent a lot of time talking about the fact that it is truly wages, tips, commissions, capped at $100,000 on an annualized basis for each employee, and that employee benefit costs, vacation, parental leave, family leave, medical leave, sick leave are all included. State and local taxes on compensation are all included, and that for solo entrepreneurs, single member LLCs, they are also eligible for PPP, but their calculation of their loanable amount is a little different. Because they have no W-2 employees, we would look purely at their Schedule C, line 31 net income as their payroll amount, and that would be divided by 12 and multiplied by 2.5 to get the lendable amount. So that 75% of that amount would have to be paid in payroll and salary, and the remaining 25% would have to be allocated to a certain narrow group of expenses, as I mentioned previously, and that should qualify the person for forgiveness, along with the big hook, and that is your full-time equivalent staff pre-COVID must be equal to or greater than at the 2-month measuring period. So there's a measuring period for the performance against all these benchmarks, and that measuring period begins at funding and goes 2 months thereafter. One of the big questions that's come up, and there has been an FAQ that clarified it to some degree recently, and that is, what if we have an employee who we've offered a job to come back and they can't come back, and that will prohibit me from meeting the requirements on my PPP. Well, there are two issues here that can mitigate that. One is that if you can provide proof in writing that you have communicated to that employee that he or she is being offered a comparable job to what they had previously, and that by refusing that job, they are putting their right to receive unemployment benefits in jeopardy. If you can prove that you've communicated that, then the SBA will not penalize you for that employee not coming back. However, you should also note that you don't have to bring every single employee back specifically that was hired. You can always go out and hire a new employee to replace that one that did not return. So that's the comparison between those two programs. Next slide, please.
And that was, Larry, I just wanted, that's a conversation that's going on a little bit in chat. And we'll get to the question in a second, Rocio.
Well, so shall I participate in the conversation? Shall we bring that up?
Well, what they were, there's a couple of people who said, yeah, their clients are seeing business owners that receive the PPP loans, but their employees are now on unemployment, don't want to come back because they make more money on unemployment than they do, which is true. And Ron, that was from Susan, and Ron said, Bianca's seen the similar, and Ron's like, said what you said, make sure the owner's documenting that. But are other people, it'd be interesting to hear what other people, if other people are seeing now, what they're advising their clients to do. And
well, that is one of the major comments that we're hearing, and I think that it's incumbent upon us as business advisors to really educate not only our employers, but to have them pass this on to their employees. That the time limit on this unemployment insurance is relatively brief when you take a look at the whole life cycle of being paid and having a career. They have an opportunity to maintain a job. I know many of them are young and they're very short-sighted, but they also will be signing a piece of paper on every 2 weeks declaring their ability to accept meaningful work. And either they will lie and say they are available and they're not taking it, and that causes other issues for them that they have to deal with. So I think that it's important for the business owners to communicate and try to bring reality into the minds of those folks.
Sure. And now would be a good time just to bring up the House bill that was released 2 days ago. The HEROES bill, you might have heard about that. And we're happy to send out the summary of it. That there's some changes for PPP that were introduced there. Some of the major ones do include more money with the set aside for CDFIs to get the money out to the community with the set aside for businesses with 10 employees or less. Some flexibility in that 8-week period that you mentioned, that 2-month period, extending that to 24, and extending the the covered period from June 30th to December 30th. The timeline was really short on this. And I mean, we're already 6 weeks out. If you haven't gotten your PPP loan, right, then June 30th is gone by the end of your 8 weeks. So that's something on the time. And then the other thing, which goes to the forgiveness piece, is that it was a 2-year loan at 1%, and they're talking about extending that to 5 years, as well as giving some more flexibility on the payroll versus expenses, the 75%, 25. So those have all been criticisms of the program that we've been talking about. So the House bill did come out with some more flexibility on that, and some terms that will hopefully help small businesses use the PPP better. The PPP loans was just in volume of loans was a lot more than the EIDL loans. The EIDL loans is 50 billion, and the PPP loans was 650 billion. And then just so everybody knows on the timing of that bill, is that the House is eager to go, but the Senate's not. So this flexibility might not come anytime soon.
Yeah, the issue here, the real underlying issue, so the issues are not, with regards to the bill, are not relative to the business components, the components that will affect small business, but it's really the ancillary pieces, the social engineering pieces that are associated with the bill, payments to undocumented folks, payments to municipalities across the board. Those are the things that are causing the legislative problems, and not these issues regarding updating and adjusting PPP.
Yeah. Bianca has a question, but I know we want to move on to some discussion with Anna Marie. So Anna Marie, I'm going to let you hand it over to you, and we can discuss PPP, we can discuss PUA, but I'm going to let you drive the conversation. And so Anna Marie.
Thank you, Heidi. And some construction has started around me, so if there's background noise, I'm so sorry. So I do want to share a couple of things. I think I'm able to. Heidi, is it okay for you to make me co-host so I can share my screen? So just a little bit about ICIC. We're a Boston-based nonprofit, really supporting and strengthening inner city communities across the country in collaboration with the local entrepreneurship ecosystems, and obviously partnering with many of you. Prior to joining ICIC, I was a partner to ICIC through CDC Small Business Finance. So I am happy to be among my colleagues to continue this work in a different setting, if you will. I still can't share. Oh no, okay, here we go. All right. So a couple of things I wanted to share around programs, and maybe sharing some good news with your entrepreneurs. We are accepting applications for the Inner City 100. This is the fastest growing inner city businesses across the country based on revenues from 2015 to 2019. And we're really looking at job creation, those revenues, as well as the location of the business or the employees in their businesses. This is a free program. It's a great way to spotlight the businesses that you work with, especially during this time. And if they are selected as one of the 100, they will be featured in Fortune magazine. And then I also wanted to share that the program that I manage, which is Inner City Capital Connections, is going virtual. This is to ensure that we're offering the program to as many businesses as possible in order to help them survive and thrive during this crisis and after. And now I'd like to share with you this tool. This is really great for those of you who are thinking about how to focus your resources on our communities. This is an interactive coronavirus economic vulnerability map. I entered an address in downtown LA, it's actually USC, and I just want to show you a couple of things. I invite you to join me for a demo in early June. I don't know this as much as our research team, so I'm only going to show you a couple of components. But basically what we can do here is enter an address. I've zoomed out, but you can zoom into the street level. This is based on LMI tracked information as well as other factors, which I'll show you in a minute. Here what you'll see is low poverty neighborhoods are in the blues. High poverty neighborhoods are in the oranges. And what we're seeing here is the highest risk, obviously under higher poverty neighborhoods, the highest risks can be the focus areas for some of the resources that we're allocating, as well as the partnerships that we're building to direct those resources more appropriately. So I'm just going to click on one of these boxes, and what you'll see are some of the factors that we've incorporated. Part of this you'll have to validate yourself. So for example, in Manhattan, we might see a lack of access to public transportation as a high factor ordinarily, but in Manhattan that might be adjusted because public transportation is not a necessity. What this also includes, though, are some of the industries or businesses located in these regions that are vulnerable to this crisis. For example, restaurants. We have a list of various categories. What I really wanted to show you was just how powerful this data can be, or this tool. It shows you, different factors like the ethnic or racial makeup in the community, different factors around access to internet, the household or cost burdens, which can impact the vulnerability score. And then what I'd like to show you next is how you can look at this based on the neighborhood. Because if we're looking at this as is, it's kind of hard to tell, okay, well, what area really is that? So I'm going to show you what this looks like when we go down to the street level. To where you can see the actual blocks. You can filter this in so many different ways. We can include only, you know, low poverty neighborhoods or vice versa. So this is just a quick introduction. It's a very powerful tool. I'm not equipped to show you all of its features, but I would like to invite you to test it out. I'll send you the link in the chat box. And now we can begin our discussion. We do have some prepared prompts just around, you know, what resources are you seeing? What are the challenges that you are hearing? Heidi, would you mind resharing your screen? Oh, you've already shared all the links. Thanks, Melissa.
Yeah, and we'll post a link on our resource page, which for the map, so you can find that through our homepage, which is really easy to access.
And I echo the same observations around the PPP and folks who are opting to go through unemployment rather than going back to their employer. I'm seeing that a lot with some friends who are in New York, where unemployment is $1,100 a week. So that's way more than what one of my friends had been able to pay her employees. So yes, let's go through some of these questions. What are some of the resources, emerging resources that are helpful to you, your businesses, that you would like to share with the rest of the group? What are the challenges that you yourself are experiencing in your line of work? We know that there's really a need to build capacity in a lot of our organizations. I know that there's been some added funding, but maybe hiring is not the easiest thing to do at this time. Feel free to chime in. Heidi, do you just want folks to raise their hand and unmute themselves?
I'm not sure if we should just jump in.
Jump in.
Okay, quickly, I was wondering if folks are hearing, and this is a question perhaps some of the technical assistance providers can answer, but I was having a conversation with a small business owner about the issue of folks, you know, a lot of his workers would make more on unemployment. Is there anything stopping an employer from paying his workforce more to entice that employee to come back, or to perhaps compensate for any risk? I mean, I know that there is the $100,000 eligibility, but I think we're talking about industries where that's not, the wage is a lot lower than that. So is now, especially considering the PPP extension, I wonder if employers would consider paying perhaps more to get those workers to come back. I'm not sure if anyone else is hearing that.
Hello, this is Selena from PCR. So yes, clients are being faced with employees that are requesting hazard pay or a higher income for their loyalty. However, if they are using the PPP funds to fund that, there's been question as to whether or not that would be eligible, because they can't pay existing employees more money and reduce the number of employees. So if they are paying more to employees, they've got to utilize cash flow and not those PPP funds. But we're hearing from a lot of employers, like everybody else, people that don't want to come back, and that the employees that feel that they are at risk are looking for higher pay or hazard pay.
Anyone else want to chime in on this topic? And then for the TA providers, what are the most urgent issues that besides the PPP and funding, what other urgent issues are you hearing from your businesses? and what's on their minds beyond the urgent issues.
Hi, this is Frank. What I'm observing is a good number are concerned. They don't know how long it's going to be, this particular situation or pattern. They don't know if they're going to be in business. So they're looking at other things, or how can they find other ways of delivering their particular service or product. So those are things that are on the table.
Frank, what kind of businesses are they, and what are they doing? Like, what are the other products? Like, what are, I mean, let's go beyond the restaurant delivery thing. I think everybody, you know, that's everybody's seen that in their community, right? We also have seen the restaurants go to takeout only or delivery services or things like that. But
well, I'll give one example as a fitness trainer. She had corporate clients and individuals. She would go to them. Of course, she hasn't been able to do that. And so she's looking at possibly doing remote or video kinds of offerings. And then perhaps maybe that'll help until she can actually be physically, she can actually have a physical gathering.
yeah, I know I'm actually going, this is kind of fun. I'm kind of going to my yoga studio that I used to go when I lived in Santa Monica, and I'm going to classes once a week. And I know they're getting, at least the teacher that I'm going to, he's getting full classes, if not more, like than he's already.
Oh, are they doing this remotely?
Oh yeah, live.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, it's a live class. So I mean, it's still not the same as in person. I think there's some things that translate and some things that don't. I don't think I'd want to do that forever, because there's something about the in-person energy that you get. But
exactly.
On that note, I'm curious if any folks here are working on any mental health programs for entrepreneurs, any tools that you can recommend, even for some folks who have health insurance gaps, given that many of our entrepreneurs may not have health insurance, or are removing that from their costs. Anything around those topics? Mental health and health insurance?
I mean, nothing really to add except just to remind folks, the small business owners, your clients that have workers that receive PPP funding, that is an eligible expense for forgiveness to continuing to pay health benefits to their workforce.
Okay, well, I know we're at time. Did anyone else want to share any final thoughts, anything that they need or you need in terms of support from this group?
I wanted to add quickly,
This is Constance.
Beyond the urgent issue.
This is Constance. What I'm hearing.
What I'm observing is a good number are concerned. They don't know how long this
Okay, I think Emma and Constance were speaking.
Constance,
Emma, do you want to continue?
Oh, happy to. Sorry if I spoke over you, Constance. Feel free to please chime in. So what I am also seeing is a couple of things. One, just the amount of technical assistance our businesses need to put through the loan. I think all of the PPP lenders would echo this, that is, are all full-time jobs, walking them through the process. So it's just, kind of highlighting the things we already knew around financial supports needed for these businesses. First and foremost. And then the second thing I'm seeing is this kind of interesting conversation around certain business owners are hesitant to take on the PPP loan, even if they are 100% eligible for it, because of really just lack of trust and lack of knowledge around the details of the system and how it will be forgiven. So we're hearing businesses that they're just honestly scared to take out a federal loan, and they don't know what repercussions they could face. So it's a really interesting conversation to have around the businesses we work with don't have connections to banks and don't have, because of that, or, in spite of that, they are feeling nervous about taking out a program that is, could be a really great resource and support for them.
Yeah, this is Susan. Emma, I would echo that. I mean, we're seeing a lot of people that have gotten all the way to SBA approval for the PPP loan, and then they've come back to us and said they don't want the loan because they don't understand what's required around documenting how they used the money, and they're afraid it's going to become a loan and not forgivable. And we're all waiting, just like Heidi mentioned earlier, all the different things that are on the table with the House, but let's see where those go. And so we're waiting for final guidance as to exactly how the forgiveness is going to work. And there's so many detailed questions, like, let's say their staff works during that 8-week eligible period, but then they don't pay the person until a week later. Is that still an eligible use of funds? Because the pay period and when you get paid never matches up equally. So we at CDC host a daily webinar. Every day we host a webinar at 10 a.m. to answer people's questions, but quite often there are more questions that we can't answer than that we can answer, because we, like all of you, are waiting for that final guidance from the SBA. So I'm seeing that as a really big issue with business owners, is they're anxious around getting that final guidance. And some of these people got their loan a month ago and they still, and so they're expected to be using it as they're supposed to, but they don't even have the guidance as to how they're supposed to. So it's very stressful. That's something that's really difficult for them.
Yeah, that's something I know we've been talking to at the levels, the advocacy levels. We've been talking to the SBA, and then everybody, Carolina's been talking to the House, and that was one of the things that we brought up, is like everybody needs guidance. And the problem is the Senate's not really in a rush to do anything, but if the SBA would just kind of come out and issue their guidance, it would be obviously super helpful.
Exactly, because this 8 weeks is going to expire for some of these people, and they're going to have no guidance as to what to do, and then the lenders don't have guidance either. So it's like we're all doing, what kind of makes sense to us.
Can I just add to one of the things that I've heard that has been, it doesn't sound like the most, it's just something that makes practical sense to me, but it doesn't sound super profound. But the idea that because things are changing so quickly, and I'm not a business advisor, but because things are changing so quickly and many people are apprehensive to take out these loans, there isn't anything preventing someone from going through the process, perhaps accepting those funds, and just waiting. Perhaps their situation changes, as we can see they're voting on Friday to perhaps extend the payback period to the end of the year. So just as quickly as things change, there are no prepayment penalties. So folks could theoretically, and I understand this is not, super efficient, but take those funds and then return them if something happens where they feel like they don't. But I have talked to 2 small business owners now that have regretted not taking out that fund and saying no, now that they know that the deadline might be extended a little bit. So just another perspective that I wanted to add.
Yeah, no, it is. It is a really good perspective, that they can just pay the money back if they want. I think there is a process, because the PPP loans can be sold on the secondary market. And so in order to pay back a loan in advance that's sold on the secondary market, they have to wait 3 weeks to be able to do it, right? There's like that little interest period. So as long as they understand that and comply with that, I wouldn't see an issue for it.
Yeah, thank you for telling me that. I didn't even know that. I was not aware of that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is there anything we can do as a group to cause or encourage SBA to provide these guidelines or the guidance?
Has everybody spoken to your, call the district director and make sure, say, hey, this is what we're hearing, you know, run up the change, a group letter, any, you know, that could be something that you send to the SBA.
As much as, so yesterday there was a letter that was circulated by the, I think, American Bankers Association and the National Association of Government Guaranteed Lenders, expressing their deep concern over the lack of clarity on the loan process and in particular the forgiveness process. And what they were requesting was a forgiveness application form that outlined, here's what you need to do, and had a spreadsheet attached so it would help calculate. So I share that to say the level of frustration exists globally. And as I'm trying to process stuff, I realize SBA, when we're saying we're looking for further guidance, they're working on it as we speak. The reason why I don't have a memo on a report I need to do tomorrow is because they haven't finished figuring it out yet. So, and I know that makes it real tough for our clients, but what we're trying to do is just stay as close to the spirit of what we do have, which was hire your employees, make that best effort. So that's what they came up with yesterday, or came out with yesterday, was like, if you can document your best effort to hire back your existing employees, document your attempt to hire new employees, hopefully this will not impact you 8 weeks down the line when you don't quite meet that forgiveness threshold. And they're saying if you can document it, then it won't hurt you.
Thank you for that, Selena. Okay, well, it is almost 12:15 and we know your time is very, very precious. So we appreciate you being on this call and continuing to share your resources, your experiences, and strengthening our ecosystem here in the LA region. Do we have a date yet on our next call? I know we'll send some follow-up information from today's presentations.
We don't have a date for the next call, but we will send out the follow-up materials for today, and we'll soon plan the next call. I have a couple of Cameo announcements, if I may, if that's okay. We have a webinar coming up on Monday about writing off loans, and we'd love for people to join us. Melissa will send out in the follow-up email a link to that. And we're also having our advocacy day, which for this group, it's really exciting because you can actually participate because it's going to be virtual. It's on June 9th in the afternoon, and she'll send out the link for that as well. You can do it from the comfort of your home, and we'd like people to sign up so that we're going to pre-schedule meetings with your legislators. So we need people to sign up so we know who's going, so we can contact those legislators and make those meetings and make sure we have the right people in the room. So we'd love I know there's people on this call who are great at advocacy, and we'd love for you all to be there. So those are my two announcements. And this, well, the SBA thing isn't really something, but I think we can twist Carolina's arm to make a phone call to the SBA and echo those sentiments and let them know what we're hearing. She's in constant contact with them, so.
All right, who wants to share the final words? Any quotes? Frank. I'm going to call on Frank.
Well, I just want to say thanks again. This is this is really helpful for me. I'm learning so much just from all the information that's shared. And I'd say continue with this. And I like your question about, is there something we can do? So maybe we could think of a letter or something that each of us could draft and send in. That's always helpful. So, you know, I don't have the exact idea, but it's a good question, and maybe it's something that could give them some more indication of what's really happening in the field.
Great idea. All right, well, thank you everyone again. We will see you soon virtually. And sending you all a lot of energy for the work that you're all doing. And we are at the front lines, a different kind of front lines. Right. So take care of yourselves, and we will see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.